We're with Erik Berry from the band Trampled by Turtles. Erik, how are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Well, I guess there are two things that you guys always have to talk about, so let's get them out of the way real fast. The first is the name of the band. Where did it come from and who named it?
That was me, and it was just a ridiculous brainstorming session on the walk to work, and I wish I still had the piece of paper that had all of my suggestions on it, because it was the only one that wasn't crossed off. It had a maybe.
Oh, yeah. And was there resistance from the rest of the band? They were like, what? What? No.
Well, all the other names were rejected, so...
Right, yeah, okay. So that was the best that was on the list. The second thing, I guess, then, that you guys always get asked about is Duluth, Minnesota. It's so cold up there, right? Do you guys still live there?
Well, I live 20 miles outside of town.
Mm-hmm.
Tim lives an hour and a half away in a community called Grand Rapids.
I see. I feel like maybe you guys should take off to someplace a little warmer, no?
Well, yeah, but then, when you're there in the summer, it's even hotter.
Right, that's true. I guess it's a bit of a trade-off. I'll give you that. The band started as a side project, right? You guys were all in different bands or in a couple of different bands anyway. Were you surprised by the success that you've had with Trampled by Turtles?
Yes.
Yeah, it was came as a...
Yeah, like one of our very first shows, because Dave Simonette, our guitar player and singer, had a pretty popular rock band in Duluth. So during our, every year there's a thing called the Homegrown Festival, and he was offered a really nice slot. It was like Friday night at 1 in the morning or something. And I think the people who offered it to him didn't realize that he'd be bringing like a string band to that.
Right.
And we were a little nervous, like, oh, geez, this is traditionally a very rocking time slot. And there was like 400 people there, standing room only or something. And it went very well, and it was very encouraging. It was like, oh, okay, at 1 in the morning on a Friday night in Minnesota, people do like to hear weird hillbilly music.
But your live show is, you guys are pretty rollicking up there, and there seems to be a lot of, rock and roll energy to the band. Is that due to the fact that you were all in rock bands at some point?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And also, not coming up from a bluegrass background, it would never occur to any of us that maybe we shouldn't do this, or, Mr. Monroe might frown at us for doing this, or something like that, it never even crossed our minds.
Is bluegrass and traditional music, is it something that you always listen to, or how did this come about?
Well, traditional bluegrass, not so much. I personally, I got assigned to the bluegrass radio show at my college radio station, so I learned a little bit about that. But their library had been pretty well picked over. So, like, when I was first being exposed to the music, it was bands like The Seldom Seen and Hot Rise and Third Time Out and stuff like that. Those would have been, like, some of, like, the most traditional stuff I was listening to, because either they never had them or they were stolen. The Monroe CDs were gone, the Flat and Scruggs CDs were gone,
Right.
So
that happens. That happens at radio stations.
So it's kind of the second-generation stuff that I was hearing first. But I don't know. Like, my dad really liked polka music, and there was always a lot of Irish and Scottish music getting played in the house. So I grew up with like a respect for the fact that there was like a thing called traditional music. I also didn't grow up playing it or going to those festivals or anything like that. So.
Right. What was, I guess, then how did Trampled by Turtles come about? If you guys are all in sort of different bands, you're doing, I guess, mostly rock bands, right?
Yeah, that's fair to say,
Yeah, it just seems odd. It's sort of a stretch to me. Whose idea was it, and were you guys just immediately on board? Well, like, yeah, let's do it. It's something different?
Well, a little bit like that. Like, I played bass in a band, and Dave wound up opening for us at one of our last shows before we quit playing together. And he had just recently had his electric guitar rig stolen, so he was forced to play an acoustic set. And I invited myself to play mandolin with him, and the reason I even had a mandolin is 5 years earlier, I was sick and tired of being the seventh guy with a guitar around a campfire.
Right.
And I saw a mandolin for $100, and I was like, aha!
Yeah, this is a good idea. Yeah, why not?
I've never seen one of those live, so
sure.
So I had one, and I think Dave was just too polite to tell me, no, I don't want this bass player to come play mandolin with me on a song.
Right.
And it went pretty well, and, the next day he called and asked if I wanted to do another show. And our banjo player, Dave Carroll, saw, and we wound up doing like a handful of duo shows, like 4 or 5 of them over the course of 2 or 3 months. And Dave Carroll saw one of those and came up and was like, I play banjo, I'd love to play with you guys, here's my phone number. And pretty much he turned around and walked away, and we looked at each other and said, I'd love to have a banjo player, and we called him the next day.
Right, okay.
And he did grow up with a... Banjo Dave's dad loves bluegrass music, so Dave grew up listening to it. His dad wanted him to play the banjo, and he kind of was resistant to it, so he plays with a flat pick. So he probably spent the most time listening to traditional bluegrass and is the least traditional of any of us.
Right. Now, please tell me that's what you guys call him all the time, Banjo Dave. Coolest nickname ever.
Well, there's two Daves in the band.
Right,
so.
right. But that's incredible. Yeah, Banjo Dave, I like that. Is it fair to say that Palomino was really the sort of breakout album for you guys?
Yeah, that would be fair to say. The record before, Duluth, that did spend like 2 weeks at number 8 on Billboard Bluegrass charts. So we started getting some traction with that, and like the ability to, get some nice placements and interviews and things like that. But yeah, Palomino definitely was the breakout one.
Right. Were you guys surprised by its success, or when you were working on the album, were you like, hey, this is something special?
Well, no, because we were trying something different with that one, which was we recorded a lot of those songs many times in different places. And after we had quite a few takes, Dave Simonette said, guys, I think it's just going to be easier if I just take charge of this, because there's there's 40 versions of the songs to listen to.
Right.
And he kind of, stitched it together, and we were super happy with it. But there really wasn't a sense when we were doing it that, this is it, this is the one, because it felt every record we've done, when we've gotten done with it, we've had a feeling like that. This is great. I'm super happy.
Right, sure. Yeah, I guess that makes a ton of sense, actually. So for you personally, I guess growing up, what kind of music do you listen to, and who were, influences on you? Be they influences on the bluegrass music or traditional music that you guys are playing now, or just otherwise?
Well, my father there's a polka radio station an hour from my house growing up. AM 1240, Polka Power, Lodi, Wisconsin.
Nice.
They're defunct now, but my father played that all the time, and I'm not exaggerating when I say all the time.
Yeah.
So that was always kind of going. And I never really liked it, but I never really hated it either. It was just my dad's thing. And to be honest, I have no idea what music I liked until I started playing guitar when I was 11 or 12 years old.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, I think about it actually kind of often, and I just draw a blank. I mean, Michael Jackson's Thriller was inescapable, to give away my age, I suppose.
No, yeah, I'm right there with you.
And Prince's Purple Rain and Born in the USA and stuff like that, but it was that was on the radio. If they didn't play it on the radio, I wasn't listening to it. So.
Yeah. I think I had 3 copies of Thriller when I was a kid. I had one at my mom's, one at my dad's, and one at my aunt's house, just to make sure I had all my bases covered. So when people come out to the Vogue on June 9th, if they've never seen a Trampled by Turtle show, what can they expect?
Well, if they've never seen us and they have no idea what we're like, I think the first thing that they'll notice is, depending on how our set list is structured, is either how fast we can play or how well the singers in the band harmonize with each other.
Well, Erik, thanks for talking to us today. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
We'll look forward to seeing you. The show is June 9th at the Vogue, Trampled by Turtles.
Thanks so much.